world where ideas clash with facts, Banana Man once again prevails. Deep into enemy territory of live debate on community television, he uses all his might to vanquish those wicked atheists yet again.
Victory! This debate was an absolute triumph.
Congratulations! I was watching it on the web. You really showed them.
Did you notice how I used subtle psychology to lead them into accepting Jeebus?
Yes, you really controlled the whole debate. And I really liked your analogy with electricity. Although you can't really stick a fork into God to feel his power.
Yes, well, God's power is infinite, and if you pray really hard, you can feel that power.
Really hard. Sometimes you don't even feel anything, but that's because you're not praying hard enough.
Yeah, and then there's the part where I called the universe creation to imply that there's a creator.
Brilliant! And then, when you said that Christians have absolute knowledge about God, and that's undeniable proof that God exists.
There's no need for any other evidence when you're absolutely convinced. Except for Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Mormons, Scientologists. Those people are just deluded. And then they try to dodge my painting must have a painter illustration by contrasting naturally occurring versus artificial things. But that didn't work, oh no.
You were like a brick wall, with ideas bouncing on it. And what about the part where you said the most intelligent person cannot create a grain of sand from nothing?
Did you get it when I implied they were crazy?
Yeah, that was really sneaky. Undeniably brilliant loaded question fallacy. Whatever they would have answered for that one, you would have won. They didn't even point out that matter and energy could just be naturally occurring and eternal.
They almost got me when they introduced the scientific method to figure out if a claim's true.
Almost. But then you pointed out that scientists change their minds all the time, thus making them unreliable. Science has been, and still is, and will always be completely useless because, as opposed to the 34,000 denominations of Christians, it changes its mind whenever new information shows up.
Yeah, I don't like that about science. Common sense is much better than science to determine things. It's common sense that allowed us to know that the Earth's flat and that the sun revolved around it. Common sense tells us gravity's the same everywhere and that ether's a medium in which life's propagating. Common sense says that life sprouts out of food spontaneously.
Of course, this all makes sense when you just look at it. So similarly, just looking at the world tells us that it was made by the Christian God automatically. That's just reasonable.
They try to get me with the whole doctor thing. They try to teach me stuff about the science of vaccines being based on evolution. I had to admit that they got me on that. They also try to convince me evolution's correct with evidence like DNA, specific examples of speciation in labs, and a long list of transitional fossils. I had to pretend scientists are confused about the definition of species, but they came back to me and gave me a well-known definition.
There, Banana Man. It's okay.
And then they gave me a brilliant analogy with the evolution of language. I mean, they buried me with a mountain of evidence and I didn't know how to respond.
Oh, don't worry. Just wait a little bit until people forget the whole incident. Then you'll be free to come back with the same arguments all over again.
Thanks, CrocoDuck boy. You're a sweet, sweet boy.
But on the bright side, you did the right thing when you rejected all that evidence by quoting the Bible. The perfect Bible shields us from these facts. It even shields us from being wrong about the Bible.
You're right. They accept evolution because they're not Christians.
But what about those Christians who do accept evolution? Or those that used to be Christians and then they lost their faith?
I already tackled that in the debate. They're not true Christians. It's easy to spot true Christians because they follow what Jeebus says. Unless they believe in evolution or lose their faith, in which case it wasn't Jeebus they were following, but the devil.
Yeah, this darn modern evangelism, it's misleading people with their music and manipulation and false conversions. Hypocrites, all of them. Let's face it, organized religion is deceiving people.
Yeah, and that's why these people should skip the middleman and go straight to Jeebus via our organisation. If only people wouldn't dive into sin like these hypocrites, they'd be saved.
I hate hypocrites.
And then they tried that old slavery trick to discredit the Bible, but I was prepared for that. After all, in the Bible, slavery's fun.
Oh, what I would give to be a slave. I will thoroughly enjoy it. But didn't you say that there's a lot of things in the Bible that you don't agree with?
Well, the Bible isn't perfect. As long as you follow it, you can be a true Christian. Except for the parts that are violent or atrocious. But we should be tolerant of people who believe in those things, even if they try and kill their kids because they thought the end of the world was coming. I'd even vote for Christian politicians to allow people the freedom to not have an abortion.
Oh, you know what? Your analogy with the airplane that's going to crash was great. Too bad you had to admit that it's a bad analogy.
Well, you can't win every time. But right after that, I really stumped them by citing some biologist who was converted by equating the soul with life. After all, when the body dies, life goes on, and that, my friend, means after you die, your soul keeps going.
Yeah, and regardless or not, your life ends when you die.
They tried to catch me off guard with only 1 minute left to explain why I was using the Bible to show other major religions are bogus. But the joke was on them because the 10 Commandments prove that the Bible's perfect.
You really nailed this debate.
Talking about nailing, let's go study Bible slavery. This way!
Yes, master.